This program is brought to you by Dolco Media. Fixing South Sudan, ideas for the new nation. With award-winning journalist Dinka Bor.
Absolutely.
Honorable Ashwin, as you can see, the ideas of the initiatives are varied.
On July 8th, the clashes in J1 took place, which was very unfortunate.
Including country-specific ones, which and the rebellion continue to be
Fixing South Sudan, ideas for the new nation.
Welcome to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Dinka Bor. This week, we put into spotlight the agreement on the cessation of hostilities between the youth of Dinka Bor and Murle communities. Is it holding, and will it be enforced? Joining us is our panel, Honorable David Okuer Akuei, MP, Greater Poshala, Transitional National Legislative Assembly. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dinka.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Also joining us, Honorable Chuol Lam, Spokesman, Office of the First Vice President, Republic of South Sudan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And finally, least but not least, Honorable Okuer Akuei, Minister of Information, Youth and Culture, Jonglei State. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So we are talking about the agreement that was signed on May 2017. This is almost a month ago, and it was to bring immediate cessation of hostilities between Jonglei and Boma states.
Correct.
There were clashes. The first vice president brokered that agreement, and you are a spokesman for him. So, Chuol Lam, let me start with you. Tell us a bit about that agreement, what was signed, and then we'll take it from there.
Very well, thank you. Thank you very much for having us with a great panel. I would like to highlight that based on the Council of Ministers resolution number 12 of 2017, which was issued on the 12th of May, created or established a high-level committee under the chairmanship of His Excellency the First Vice President, which will investigate and find solution to the issue between the two communities, the Dinka Bor community or youth and the Murle. After the visit to the two states, the Jonglei State and Boma State, His Excellency the First Vice President and the team accompanying him came back to Juba after a successful meeting and shuttle visit. They came back to Juba and invited the two governors with the delegation to come and discuss and sign a cessation of hostility agreement. This has been done through the facilitation of our partners, our peace partners in the UN organization. And the meeting was very frank and discussion were very good. And at the end of the discussion on the 23rd of May, as you have said, they have signed a peace agreement or cessation of hostility that has 12 articles.
We will get into the articles,
Yes.
but when we talk about cessation of hostilities,
Yes.
it indicates that there were clashes happening.
There-
So give us
yes.
a bit of the background, what took you to Bor, and then what were some of the issues?
Yes, of course, there were some incidents that has been recorded, and the reason why I said the articles of the agreement of the cessation of hostilities has 8 articles. One of them was the formation of committee, investigation committee, to find out exactly what happened and what are the issues and to prevent such issues from happening again. The issues that took us to these areas is that there was some incident that have happened, and also there was going to be more incident that were about to happen if there was not intervention from the government. So from that point, before going into the articles, the 8 articles, I would say that the tension was there between the two communities, and it has been recorded. I don't want to speak out of my mind without the investigation committee's report. I think that will give us more validity. But for now, what we know that there was hostilities between two communities and there was dangers of citizens that could have gone the wrong way if there was no intervention from the government.
So what is your verdict? Has the agreement succeeded in ending the conflict so far?
It has potential. It has the potential of bringing an end to the issues between the two communities, especially the issue of abduction, cattle rustling. These two issues are the main issues that is happening between two communities. Of course, the investigation committee is still in the process of doing the investigation. There has been efforts to mobilize resources, and our main issue is how do we fund. Of course, as you know, the government has limited resources, and that's due to other factors. I don't want to deviate from the main issue that we're discussing today and finding a solution.
Let me bring you in here, Honorable. So a cessation of hostilities agreement has been signed, and what I'm gleaning from his statement is that it's facing a lot of challenges. Yes, it has the potential, but it is facing a lot of challenges. You are talking about two communities that have been feuding for a long time. So this is an historical issue, and it will not take one agreement to stop all the clashes. So what would you say at this point, as someone who comes from the region, and also someone who was previously part of the Peace Commission? You were the chairperson of it. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Madingor, for inviting us in this program. As a member, of course, of National Assembly, I speak on behalf of the whole of Boma State, and of course I'm a representative of Pochala counties. Therefore, what I know about this agreement is that during the conference which was held last time here, the short conference that took place in Juba, a cessation of hostilities agreement was reached. And that was the main issue which the first Vice President was very much interested in, to stop fighting, stop the killings which was going on between the two communities, and it was achieved. A ceasefire was signed, which means the two states have to go back to their people and start enlightening them that there will be a conference after 30 days. After 30 days, definitely or probably, peace conference will be held between the two communities, that is the Murle and the Bor Dinka. The implementation of the cessation of hostilities, we are very far here in Juba. I have not gone down to the people, but what we are hearing is that it is holding, and the people are respecting the hostility, the ceasefire, and the informations have gone to the people in Pibor through their government, of course, through the governor, and through the ministers who are there now in Pibor, informing the people that there is need for ceasefire, no need for fighting, and they have informed almost every chief to understand and know that there is no more fighting going on now between the people of Boma, or the Murle of Boma, and the Dinka Bor community. So this is as far as I know about the cessation of hostilities. It is holding and it is being respected.
The agreement is intended not only to end the fighting, but ultimately to bring the conflict to an end. And we know that this has been going on for a long time, and there's always a lot of finger pointing, so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing that. So there's a bit of that going on. So how do we overcome the suspicion, which is evidence, so that this agreement finally achieves its objectives? Because it will not be the first or the second or the third.
Correct, and I agree with you. The cessation of hostilities is not just to stop bloodshed or stop fighting, but it also aims at the two communities stopping these hostilities between them that had been existing for so many years. I believe when the conference takes place in 30 days' time, as it is stipulated in the agreement, it is that conference that will actually reveal all the issues that existed between the two communities. They will now come up with the root causes of conflict between the two communities. It will be then, and then when they come up with solutions, what will be the solutions? How will we stop this? How will we stop cattle rustling? How do we stop child abduction and unnecessary killings of people on the roads and in the gardens and so forth? These things will come up when the conference is held, as it is mentioned in the agreement.
And speaking about the agreement, it was signed by the governor of Jonglei State and the governor of Boma State. So what would you say about the cessation of hostilities on your side? Is it holding? Is there a lot of confidence about this upcoming conference? What do you think the agreement is going to achieve or is already achieving?
Thank you, Madingor. As Minister of Information in Jonglei State and a spokesperson of the people of Jonglei, with this peace agreement or ceasefire that was signed on the 23rd of May, within 3 days it was violated. And this is not the first one. Before this peace or this ceasefire, there were 3 peace agreements that were made in 2016. The one was in Gumro, another one was in Bor, and the other one was in Bibor. And they all met the violation from the Murle youth. As we are speaking now, when the ceasefire was called on the 23rd of last month, just within 3 days, this was violated by the Murle youth. There was a question asked before His Excellency, the first Vice President, was in Bor and went to Boma. We say this, as people of Jonglei and the government of Jonglei, we want to see this thing end, the cattle raiding and child abduction, because it's a chronic problem that has been there over 100 years. But the traditional authority and the local government and the leadership in Boma states can control the youth and tell them this is not the time to keep doing something like this.
So there's a lot of finger pointing on both sides because, you know, just recently the youth from your state went into Murle territory. So there's also a raw feeling on the other side that the last people to attack were youth from your area. So how do we now build confidence to overcome these issues and make the agreement workable?
This has been a multi-practice for the youth in Boma State, and particular Murle, and they call them this criminal or majani. And the Jonglei State youth, you are talking, these are cattle camp youth and cattle camp owners. In December 14, they came and took all the cattle in place called Jele, almost 12,000 cows. And the government of Jonglei State asked the government of Boma and the national government please to return the cattle. When the cattle were taken, the Boma State or the Murle criminals or the youth said these cattle were taken by force and there was no marriage that has broken.
I don't want to actually go back to the root causes of the problem. Mm-hmm. The point is, what do you think of the agreement going forward? Yes, it is facing challenges, right, but how can we empower the agreement in your view?
We can empower the agreement, as I said, it was a chronic problem. It needs social activities that need to be done. And also we put forward the idea that in this buffer zone, we need 2,000 police to be trained from both the boomers and neighbors or the former greater Jonglei states, where each will bring 500. And when these people are trained, they will what we call peace zone centers. And this is Nanam, you can talk about Ajagir, and also Gadiang. And when these people are put there, they will be able to control the youth. And also, we need to empower traditional authority, to be in a place to be able to control. These youth have home where they call home, they have families, and whenever they go and do this wrong practice, they will come back home. And the traditional authority, or the Magak as we call it, can be in charge to question these people. Also, we need development activities, because this is a cultural perpetuated conflict that caused by raiding, cattle, and child abduction. And it is well politically taken as the national government is now putting the place to try to put some resources and time that this should stop, because it's a national threat. We belong to one country and one constitution that every citizen have to respect life. Because this, as you say, we have nothing with the Boma state. What we have is just, we need to stop the child abduction and cattle raiding.
Yeah, okay, let's take a break from here.
This program is brought to you by Dolco Media. Catch up with your hosts on SSBC TV every Thursday 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. and repeat of the same every Friday 12 noon to 12:30 p.m. and on SSBC Radio every Saturday after 7 p.m. English news, and repeat of the same on Monday after 7 a.m. English news. For more information, contact +211 953 333 119 or send the email to madingor@gmail.com, or else visit www.dolcomedia.com.
Welcome back to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Madingor. Our topic is the agreement on the cessation of hostilities between the youth of Dinka Bor and Murle communities. Our panel: Honorable David Okuer Akuei, MP, Greater Poshala, Boma State, Transitional National Legislative Assembly; Honorable Chuol Lam, Spokesman, Office of the First Vice President, Republic of South Sudan; and Honorable Akec, Minister of Information, Youth and Culture, Jonglei State. Welcome to all of you. Honorable Chuol, let me bring you back to the agreement, because you were talking about the 8 points. Some of the objectives were to immediate ending of child and women abduction, killing of innocent people and cattle rustling, collection and return of abducted children and women within 1 month, and also the return of raided cattle, opening of roads. So many objectives, but you make the assessment.
Sure. There's two things I would like to mention before I get to that answer. The part that you have mentioned about it's not failing. Let me not say that the ceasefire is failing. I think that's what you said earlier, that maybe you misunderstood what I was saying. The ceasefire is not failing. The ceasefire is still holding. There's challenges. And one of the challenges I've mentioned was the challenge of resource. Of course, the ceasefire is to stop hostilities immediately. That's not a solution to the problem. The solution to the problem will come after two main points that are taken. The committee that is in charge of investigation needs to go and find out exactly what happened and what are the causes. That is one. Two, the peace conference itself that is supposed to be taken or started within 30 days of the agreement needs to also take place. And the peace agreement, I think, will address a lot of these challenges. After the investigation committee comes out with this report, the conference will go ahead and discuss some of these issues and find solution that will be viable for the two communities. At the end of the day, this issue is not only pertaining to these two communities, but it's a nationwide issue where we're having cattle wrestling in other part of the country. And if we could start with Jonglei and Boma, we could learn a lot that we could apply the same thing to the other part of the country as well.
Let's do a reality check on the agreement. We know that the government will has been demonstrated because the government jumped in a big way by forming the high-level committee.
Correct.
And are you able to meet some of the things that are spelled out in the agreement?
Yes,
because
definitely.
It looks like the agreement is lagging behind.
It's not lagging behind. The agreement is cessation of hostilities, right? And I think it's achieved that mean. It's stopping the fighting immediately, and I think it has. The other challenges now is where do we go from here? I mean, the agreement, the articles said the formation of the committee, which has been formed. There was a first Vice President order that informed the committee to go and investigate these issues. And also, we are in preparation of bringing the two communities. I guess, if I could go through the formation of the committees that was supposed to come, composition of and mandate of the committee. There will be a minister of local government from each state. There will be representative of legal administration from each state, from the two states. There's 3 members of legislative assembly from both states, 3 county commissioners from the 2 states, chairperson of peace commission from each state, 3 chiefs, 14 youth from both states, 3 women leaders from each community, 1 church elder or leader, and 3 community elders from each state. This is the composition of the committees. They will come here and they will deliberate and discuss. There is the issue, we don't want to put the investigation behind. The investigation will be forefront so that we know what happened, how to avoid it in the future. I don't think, the issue of resources is definitely a problem to us because all of these needs resources, like Honorable Minister said, that the buffer zone, training of the police, helping them, arming them, feeding them, it needs resources. But I don't think it's a big challenge that the government can't do because it is the government responsibility at the end of the day to make sure that there's peace between the two communities.
Tell us, in terms of the timeline, what is coming up very soon?
The peace conference definitely is coming up. The 2 states are aware of the committees and they're trying to facilitate in terms of the accommodation. And also the cooperation from the states is very important so that the investigation committee can go ahead and carry its mandate. So this is the first. The second part is the conference will take place. The conference, our donor community will assist us in terms of transportation and doing other part of funding. So that is the second part. And I think the peace conference will come with a resolution that will be the way forward in terms of how do we make sure that there's a viable peace between the two communities.
Without funding, nothing is going to happen. So how are you going to overcome?
Well, this is the government challenge. Of course, we don't have funding, and everybody knows this. Our economic situation in the country is very bad. But there's no solution that we can't have. I mean, there are challenges, and that's why I like to say, without funding, we'll find out there is some road blockage here and there. But we will do everything in our power because it is the government responsibility to make sure that there's peace. Even if we're not able to bring this big number of people, we might reduce the number just to make sure that we get a viable solution. We'll still appeal to the donor communities to rescue us and help us in terms of funding, and maybe if they're not able to give us the money directly, they could cover accommodation, they could cover transportation and other means.
In kind.
Yes.
Chuol was mentioning that the issues of fragility, cattle wrestling, intertribal clashes are not confined to Jonglei. We are seeing a bit of it across South Sudan, and you have traveled, so you know a bit of this. So how can we reach the point where South Sudan is peaceful? How do we reach stability to put behind this fragility that we are seeing?
Thank you very much, Dinka. As a matter of fact, I'm also, for your information, I'm a member of the National Dialogue Steering Committee. And these are the issues we have been meeting about and we have been discussing. The committee now has been formed into 15 committees that will go to the states. So, ceasefire, which has been signed between Boma and Jonglei State, I think that should be replicated in several areas of our country in the whole of the South. Because the same conflicts are happening in most parts of South Sudan. The issue of cattle rustling mainly is very widespread in the country. So we are working so hard to see that the members of the committees that go to the states, they go to the states to meet the local people in the areas, to meet the chiefs and traditional leaders, to solicit their opinion as to how to achieve peace in the whole country. Peace can only come through dialogue.
The greater Jonglei area is a rich area, is well endowed in terms of national resources. In Jonglei, there's oil that is been discovered, but it still has not yet been tapped into. In Boma, you have the national park. So when you look at the region, if peace holds, it has a potential to feed South Sudan. What would you say about the benefits, the peace dividends that are expected once all the hostilities come to an end?
Thank you, Madingo. For this question, I do say, what matters everywhere around in the world is human relation and citizenship. We should understand that the little thing we do carelessly and not mind on our own life or your neighbor's life, it come back and bite you. So we are very rich region, as you said before, Greater Jonglei. We have everything that we need if we allowed ourselves to respect life and stop killing each other. I know there are sarcastic resources, but it's when people are not exploiting them well. This comes back to every leader in South Sudan. Instead of us keep blaming and say, I said it, let talk, I do. Leaders have to go to the grassroots to inform the people of what is going wrong. If they don't have that human relation, if they don't respect life, if they still see themselves on the tribal line, this is not helping any of us. And this contributes to the big part of the problem we are in this country. If we want to make sure our car is running in a highway that brings development and open up our world or South Sudan to be flat, to every child that is born in this nation can pursue their dream without any distraction or where he comes from. We need peace among ourselves. And particularly, leaders should watch out on the signal they send to the people. When you are a leader, you have to mind your language.
Let me ask you lastly, what has been the experience of the first Vice President in the two areas? Has he seen anything that has given him hope that this thing will end in a good way?
Yes, when he came back, interestingly enough, when the first Vice President was in Bor and when he was in Boma, he felt like he could stay in these two areas without coming back to Juba. And that feeling is the feeling that he felt the people and the energy that he received in the two areas is a very positive energy. And he felt like now he was walking throughout in Bor and Boma. He kept on walking around. And he felt like he was home in the two areas. The people of Bor and the people of Murle, the two communities, are people who are very resilient, are people who have better hope for their own children and a better future for themselves and for their children. This is hope. And as long as you have hope, there will always be a way to find a solution to every problem.
Is this agreement a good idea for fixing South Sudan?
Yes, definitely. It's a start. It's a start that we could start with cessation of hostility in Jonglei and Boma, and then we could take it to all other. We could take that same example to fix South Sudan. And I think if we start from one area, we could duplicate that in all the area, and hopefully we'll be able to fix South Sudan.
What is the hope for Jonglei and Boma and South Sudan? Let's use this as an idea for fixing South Sudan. How do we do that?
Well, the hope is that this peace between Jonglei and Boma holds. If it continues to hold, and we hope that it will continue to hold, the conference will take place eventually between Boma and Jonglei, with the sole intention of bringing peace between those communities which are now in conflict.
It's the time we have on Fixing South Sudan. Thanks to all of you, and thanks to you, our audience. Fixing South Sudan every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. and repeat the next day. Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation.
ya